Shalom. There's nothing for creativity like suffering. That used to be the artist's standard. And religion has a lot to say about these kind of things. My wife and I were sitting around on Shabbat talking about the situation because we're living in the middle of a war that keeps threatening to bust out in all kinds of directions. And we remembered the story of King Solomon and the two women who came to him claiming to be the mother of a particular baby. It's a world famous story. Everybody's heard it. Everybody knows what King Solomon did. And we realized, wait a second, there's something jiggling around in the mind over here. My wife said, maybe these two women are the two sides of Am Yisrael. The people that say we have to keep the land whole. And the people that say, no, we can split up the land and make peace with our neighbors. Of course, King Solomon recognized the compassion in the woman when he said, cut the baby in two. The woman said, no, 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 give the baby to her. From that moment of compassion, the king knew that the baby was this woman's and not the other one, not the one that was lying. And think about it for a second. We're struggling as a nation for unity, for consensus, for a singular vision that will take us to the next stage of nationhood, which is living in peace with our neighbors. And how to achieve peace with terrorists is not a simple question because these people are bent on dying. I mean, I've met them, I've known them for 33 years and talked to them. Now, not every Arab wants to die for the jihad, but every Arab will support jihad. But there are those, who, of course, who are the heroes that want to die anyways. They're happy to. When you have an enemy like that, there's only one way to go. But we're not here to discuss military strategy. But in King Solomon's infinite godly wisdom, let's take the story again. One woman says, no, 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 don't split the child in two. Don't split the land in two. This land is one land. It is biblically defined. It is godly in its inception. It was designed from the beginning of creation to be the homeland for the people who would one day teach monotheism to the world. And it's the place where Adam, the first man, brought his first sacrifice for his part in the sin in the Garden of Eden, the part of the falling from heaven to earth, from the spiritual to the physical, from the unified to the duality. And we know, of course, that Abraham brought his sacrifice there. The Torah tells us it was his son Yitzhak. And a lot of Muslims believe it was, no, that was a lie, a Jewish lie, and it was Ishmael. And, this kind of thing of rewriting history is not new. Every victorious nation rewrites the history books for their own glory. And we're still unscrambling that history that Josephus and Pliny and the other Roman writers put together. Okay, you get the glory of creating a false narrative, and that makes you feel better. I feel pretty sorry for you if a false narrative makes you feel better over the real, only truth. But to say that Eretz Israel should be split apart, what mother would want that? But the mother that really, the true mother, will scream and yell and do anything to keep that child whole. And those are a certain segment of the Jewish people that understand we cannot split up this land and understand that giving away the land will only invite more and more terror upon us. And the woman that it's not really her land, of course she can split it up because it's not really in her guts, it's not in her blood, it's not in her makeup. It's a strategy that has proven a failure over and over. After we gave up the settlements in the Hitnatkut, it's called in Hebrew, in the Otef Aza, around the Gaza Strip. A while back, I was here in Israel then, when they had the destruction of the settlements of Gush Katif. It wasn't a pretty time to be here. It was a really terrible time to hear and to see the way people acted and spoke to each other, the way people weighed in on political issues that they're really not qualified to do so, but everybody feels qualified to speak about Israel and Judaism and God and all the things they haven't learned about. And, so it's a human thing that we have opinions whether we're informed or not. And so since then till now, what do you think's been happening? We took out our presence of Gaza. They became a terrorist nation. It's a nation that has a proxy army that became their government, that became their thieves, and they became their providers. But they don't provide. They sell back to the people the very United Nations aid that comes to them. They steal it on the trucks and then resell it in the markets. And it doesn't seem like the world's getting the word or wants to, one or the other. But if you look at what King Solomon did, he restored the baby to the true mother. And that is what God is doing for us. He is going to restore this land to the Jewish people completely, with safe borders, without this false narrative that has been promulgated and developed and re-spun so many times that people start to believe the thing is true. Hitler did the same thing about all racial groups that were not superior, like the Germanic tribes, as if they were so superior ever in anything. Maybe making cars. Okay, they're pretty good at that. But what gave him the right to say that the Germans were a superior race? He proved that wrong himself. And here we have again a murderous, genocidal people willing to die as opposed to willing to live in peace with what they have and to make that good. But instead of making that good, wherever they go, they destroy. And ask any Arab from any nation in the Middle East, and they will tell you who the Palestinians really are. The word Palestinian is a false notion. It's invented by the Roman Empire. It's nothing more than an adjective for roaming, wandering, bloodthirsty people. And if we don't want to admit it, and the left wing doesn't want to look at it clearly, then they will pay the price ultimately for their ignorance. And the Jewish people will prevail, because that is God's promise, and God will not let us down. Don't even think about it. It's going to be better and better and better. All the best. Have a great week.